Hi everybody, welcome to the first ever episode of the Other Brother podcast by me, Ross Clark, and I'm very happy to have with me today my brother Stevie. How are you today, Stevie boy?
I'm good. Be long live Christmas holidays.
Good
Watching
mate,
a couple of Christmas movies and it's good, and that life's good today.
good family time in that or Christmas, chilling, lots of nibbles.
Mostly with friends, good friends. Do you know what I mean? It's good to have a good Christmas for once.
Good,
Celebrate Christmas.
and
And
this
good,
is a
couple of presents and giving other people presents. Love it.
good mate. Santa, good to you then.
Say that again.
Santa, good to you then.
Aye, it's good. Aye. I wasn't in the naughty list this year.
Well, that's that 2 years in a row you've been in no on the naughty list.
No, it's 1 year. 1 year in a row.
No, mate, we'll get right into it, man. Obviously, the reason you're on the pod, I met you through the anonymous fellowship we both were in, and you've became a good friend through that. Obviously, I've fell away a wee bit because I've maybe not been attending the meetings, but you're prospering. So how are you finding your practice and the stuff you're getting up to through the fellowship?
It's amazing, man. To where I was last year to my life today, it's like I don't even look the same, Ross. I don't even feel the same. I don't think the same. Uh, Completely transformation. My life's completely different. So it's like it was a lot of hard graft this year, a lot of hard work, but I made it my priority. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to get better. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? I was sick of being sick.
and I'm going to go on to talk to you a wee bit about that, Stevie, because at one point when I first came into the fellowship, I remember speaking to you, and at that time you were just happy to get a few weeks clean here and there. And then if you went out and used, at least you'd only used once in the last 6 weeks or something. So it's amazing for me to see the transformation in you. It's dynamite, but we'll go back to the start, mate. So obviously you're a local boy. So when did you how did you end up going down that kind of path, and what kind of led to you starting to look for a way out?
Going down that path, I think it was circumstances. You know, it's like I was brought up with an a scheme mentality. My mum worked in a pub.
Yep,
A lot of trauma, childhood trauma. It was acceptable. That was my path was already laid out for me. You know, drunks always run about us. People in the schemes always fighting, taking drugs up to no good. So that's what I seen as a child. And don't get me wrong, my mum never brought me up to be that way. I was
yep,
attracted to all that people talking about crime and people drinking and it just went on through school and stuff. Like dog in school smoking weed. Do you know what I mean? It just became the norm. You know what I mean?
yep,
And moving on to other drugs and other substances. And you know, when I took alcohol, it took all my fear away.
yep,
And I drank alcoholically for 12-year-old. Uh, I never knew once I picked up alcohol or any substances, I couldn't stop. But it took all my fear away. You know what I mean? I was always riddled with fear. If I stopped drinking or taking other substances, I would be a scared wee boy. So
yep,
I was always looking forward to the next carry out, the next party. And don't get me wrong, I loved it all when I was younger because it was party time, you know,
yep.
and getting older, going to Tea in the Park and Resurrection and other festivals, house parties. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But the party was over a long time ago, Ross. No, people started growing up. People
Yep.
started getting married, getting jobs. But I was always the one in that party getting, you know what I mean, for
Yeah,
2, 3, 4 days, no going home. I could be in this one party and people are away home and they come back a couple of days later after getting fed, washed, showered,
yeah,
seeing their parents. But I would leave my mum to worry. Do you know what I mean? My family members, they'd all be worried about us. But I'd be thinking, but it's me, it's my body. And then you get to a certain age and you're like, I can't stop this.
Yeah.
I want to better my life. I want to get a job. I want to get a girlfriend. I want to get a nice motor.
Yeah.
And I just can't seem to do it. I get jobs. And then you get paid and then you're like, oh, well, let's get a couple of pints. And you get a couple of pints and that's you've got your own other substances and you've lost that job and you're going, what happened there? I just went for a couple of pints. And I've done that for about 30 years.
You don't even look old enough to have been doing that for 30 years, Stevie.
Recovery's been good.
But no, I think what the thing for me that shows, Stevie, is I had a totally different upbringing for you, but addiction still bit me in the arse the exact same way. That the disease has got absolutely no boundaries on how it gets you or where it gets you. I've worked for I was 16, in the same job right through, and as you say, I remember my first time ever taking a drug. It was in Destiny nightclub, and a boy I'd met in work just handed me a tablet, and it was like a will I or will I no, and I did, and I loved it. And then, as you say, the next week I never went back for one. I went back and bought 5, and that's the addictive personality right for the start. So I can identify with everything you said there, mate. But when you are using and losing the jobs in that, obviously your mental health's low. How are you feeling at that point? How's your mental health?
Well, see, I never had a substance with my body, say it be cannabis, Valium, alcohol, ecstasy, cocaine at the weekends. But see, to fund that, I sold drugs, petty crime, and so did everybody else I was hanging about with. Hanging about street corners, town centres. I had a load of trouble with the police and in and out jails, and it became very unmanageable. You know that way. I really didn't want to do it anymore. But I was in so much bother. I'd built up a lifestyle. I couldn't get out. And then I found heroin. And that was my solution to life. I was 25 and there was a lot going on and a lot of courts and people looking for us and a lot of, don't get me right, I caused a lot of carnage out there and a lot of harm, and a lot of harm happened to me and I couldn't handle it anymore. So see, when I picked up heroin, it just quieted my head right down. You know what I mean? My head was so busy, so full of fear. Couldn't stop taking whatever, and when I picked up heroin, everything just disappeared. It became my solution. That probably saved my life because I was going to kill myself because I couldn't handle this lifestyle I was in.
Aye, so a lot of folk, I find that myself, mate. A lot of folk talk down it, and it's totally changed my perception of that homeless guy you see out in the street, or that guy who you can tell is on the downers. I look at the people now, knowing people like yourself. I see the good in the people. They've just took a wrong path. I remember my first sponsor in the fellowship telling me that their addiction is the same as my addiction. They just chose a different colour of powder, and that really struck home with me. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy to go down, Stevie, go through the list of drugs and end up there. And as you say, it becomes a refuge for you. It becomes a safe place. I've realised that after talking to many addicts through my time in the fellowship. So at what point did you discover this was a problem and start to try and seek help? Any kind of avenues you tried to get help from, whether they were successful or no?
Well, I'll touch on what you talked about there. It doesn't matter in the substance. Do you know what I mean? And I did the same fellowship. That's where we met. And people come in crawling in their doors, right? But some people get dropped off with their missus and a nice motor. Do you know what I mean? And got the kids and the dream house and the dream job. And are not quite convinced because they didn't take certain substances. They go out and die. They go out and relapse and die with cocaine or dodgy Valium or even alcohol. They still are up against the same things as we. Just because they look good doesn't mean to say they don't suffer from addiction, which is rife. And the stigma about calling people junkies, I mean, I had an alright life and I had good pals and I had money in my pocket. And nobody would really call me anything. But see, the worst of my addiction, not going into chemists for method, I was looked down on. I was called them. You guys need to wait outside. I was, and you see when you see addicts out there now, and they turn it, and I became one of the guys. It hung about the four corners in Glasgow and in hostels, and was spat on and called a junkie, wee blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? I still had a mother, I still had a father, I still had a sister, I still had family that cared for me. I was just lost, just like these guys are absolutely lost, and there should be more for them, because when going on to what you asked us there, see, try to get help, it was. So I get put on a methadone program, right, and I was told it was going to take 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. 15 years I was on that. Now that was my recovery. Going to see a drug worker with a suit and tie on, with a table in front of us, talking about how many milligrams of methadone I'm going to go up to, am I going to go into boxing. That was the only recovery I heard. And I was phoning mental health places, I was phoning hospitals, and I'm like, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to kill somebody. I've got drug psychosis, I'm riddled with fear, and I didn't want to be here. And as you got talk about earlier on, they tell you get a hot bath, or they tell you we're no priority. I needed a place of safety to go to. The only time I felt safe was I was locked up in the jail. Do you know what I mean? Because it was safe. I knew nobody was coming to my door. Do you know what I mean? I could close my eyes and get to sleep. And it wasn't I was back out of the jail again. I was doing the exact same things again. I was trying everything. I was trying day hubs and stuff like that. And I started getting a bit of help, thinking I just had a heroin problem. Didn't know I was an addict. So they were all right with the drinking thing and other substances and smoking weed, as long as I was reducing on my methadone. And that's a numbers game, because as long as they're getting people, harm reduction in it, they call it. Do you know what I mean? Try and get harm reduction. And they don't get funding, I'm guessing, if they're not reducing people in their methadone and stuff like that. But they never ever says I was an addict. They never says I was an alcoholic. They never says that you can't take any mind altering substance. They never told me every time I felt like picking up something, I had no control, because when I pick up something, I've got no control. I don't know how long I'm going to be out there for. I don't know who I'm going to be with. I don't know where I'm going to wake up. I don't even know if I'm going to be back. I don't know if I'm going to die. That's the truth. But I think people need to be educated in this. I think recovery is really, really huge in Glasgow, but I think they need a lot more funding. And it wasn't until a place called Ad Action came to my hometown, where I was absolutely broken, drug psychosis, and there was a woman that wanted to see me, and this was the first time I went to speak to another addict. No, it wasn't. I spoke about somebody with a suit and a badge telling me what to do. It was just a chat, just like we're having now. Telling me she used the same as me, telling me she lived the same lifestyle, but she's turned it around. She says she done it through a treatment centre. I couldn't get funding for that treatment centre, but I had money. My mum had left us money when she passed away. So I looked forward to going to see this woman. She let me up. She gave me hope, and she says she can get me into this treatment centre, and it cost £2,000 a month. And she goes into that treatment centre up in Postal. And it absolutely helped. I absolutely turned. That's when I met you, Ross, in the rooms. I went in there and I couldn't look at anybody in the eye and stuff. And it's a great treatment centre. Again, they didn't teach me in there what they suffered for, maybe. But it was good because it leaded me on to fellowship. You know, and I'd done 6 months in there, and I put the weight on, I looked good. I had nice clothes again, I'd moved place. All the people I was doing all these crimes with and selling drugs with and using with, I'd put them out of my life. And my life was great again. No, I got 18 months in a short space of time. I was doing the recovery cafes, I was doing talks on addictions in unis for students, for social workers, doing talks on bloodborne viruses. I was doing the drama, I was up on stages. Do you know what I mean? My life had completely changed.
So I
But
like
seeing I left that treatment centre, Ross, I had a reservation that I would drink again, like a gentleman. No, I would watch the football and I would sit down and open a nice cold one. But that took me right back to the gates of hell again. See, the 30 years it took me to use RA drugs. I used RA drugs in 30 days again. I was powerless again. Absolutely. Took me 2 years to get back.
So I wanted to say a wee bit about that, Stevie. Like this is the reason I've started the podcast, and this is why I wanted you as my first guest, because you've got that experience. A couple of people I've heard recently have gone to mental health nurses and got phone and crisis teams being told, take a hot bath. Look, I'm stressed out my box, and a doctor telling them, have you tried just no worrying about that today? Try and block it out your mind and stuff like that. And I feel that people like yourself and the other guests I've got that are going to come on here who can tell you, I've been there, I've done that, I've bought the t-shirt, as we're about to talk about. You've bought the t-shirt the same as me a couple of times back in and out the doors of fellowship. I think it's really important that folk get a message, I hope, even if they've not got the confidence or they don't think they're an addict. Hopefully, if one person listens to this podcast and hears us talking, they'll realise that there's other ways of getting help out there. And what you've just said there about Action and places like that, I'd like to promote all kind of places where folk can go for help. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully hearing the stories of the guests I'm going to have on here, I'll get one person to do that. So I'm going to jump, mate. September 2018. I was on my arse. I'm working night shift. I'm getting mad with it all the time. My life's spiralling, just the same as you spoke about. My drug of choice was obviously cocaine, as you know. I don't know if the listeners will know, but it was by chance I met a guy in my work who told me about fellowship and anonymous groups and meetings and stuff like that, and I rock up to White Inch and I see this guy and he's got all the confidence in the world. He's got his phone playing up on a window and he's jiving and he's setting up the room and stuff, and it's you. Do you know what I mean? And you looked like so approachable, do you know what I mean? And I remember coming up and speaking to you, and I remember you telling me this is what the meeting format is and stuff like that, and being so welcoming, and that big hug you get when you go in and it's like, I'm part of something here, even on the first night, which is magical. And then I remember a couple of weeks later, you went, was it Benidorm? You went on holiday to Benidorm and relapsed and came back.
Thailand. No, sorry, that was Ibiza.
Ibiza, relapsed and came back, mate. And I remember I was nearly greeting. I'd only been at the meetings for maybe 6 weeks or something. You had told me you did X amount of months clean and then you relapsed. And then when I was like, I'm really sorry, you said, I remember you saying to me, Ross, as long as I'm not using every week, if I can get 8 weeks clean or 6 months clean and then use once and come back. And at that time, you were just quite happy to be getting some clean time behind you. You weren't really pushing. So what was your mindset back at that point? Can you remember you were just quite happy to be clean for a wee period of time, and if you went out on a bender, kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Going back to where you talked was when you met us in the rooms, my life was great, as I was just saying. The difference then to what happened was my thinking. I was still dishonest in my thinking, and I couldn't handle my feelings and my thoughts. I was really, really sensitive. And the day a 12-step program in them, I never done the 12-step program because I was already clean. I thought you guys needed it, and I would be all right. I just wanted to hang about with other addicts, and the room's done that for us. But again, I didn't know what I was up against, and when I did relapse in Ibiza, it was quite slowly, but I came back and I wasn't honest, so there's a dishonesty bit right away, and I still picked up an 18-month chip, and it was shortly after that I started using other substances again, and I was coming back and I was getting a period of clean time. but I was powerless again. Back to when that thought came in my head, I'll just get a couple of Valium. I'll maybe just get a couple of cans.
Yep.
And going off and running again. And it was just getting worse and worse, ferocious, till I got to a point that I could not get back. Do you know what I mean? It took me 2 years to get back. Trying it, and as you say, 30 days, 60 days, picked up the key rings and right back out the door again. Because I still wasn't doing their programme. Because they've got a solution for me. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't going near it. They've got a way out, a way to help me.
Yep.
And I'm thinking I can do it myself, innit? And I can't do it myself. I need other guys like you, people in the fellowship, people in recovery. I need the guys so we can do it. I can't do it myself. I need you guys.
Yep. So you spoke there about being out for a couple of years. So there was a couple of trips to Thailand in the couple of years we were back and forward to there. So what was it like over there? What was your kind of mental state when you were going back and forth to there? Because I must admit, mate, I was worried about you going back and forth to there because you seem to be on a kind of downward slope, and we were trying to say to you, like, don't go, maybe don't go. But I know that obviously you were enjoying it. And what was your kind of mental state and your kind of ideas going back and forward to there?
See, I was there long back for one of the relapses we're talking about, and I was back into a lot of the recovery stuff. And one of them was Cahoots, and we were doing drama, and it was quite big shows, and it kept me busy, kept me occupied with other addicts. But me and my pal would decided to go on a lad's holiday.
Yeah.
And when we booked it, we decided to do the drinking thing. So it was like 6 months. So 6 months when we booked it till we went. And see, we went that first holiday, Bangkok and over to Phuket and stuff. It was good. We both decided to drink, but keep it a secret for the boys back home, and we drank. And it was good. We were fit, we were healthy, and we enjoyed it. We done all the partying, the tourist things. It wasn't too much of a problem. We were drunk, getting into trouble. It's a lad's holiday, do you know what I mean? We came back, and he relapsed. He relapsed on all substances. It wasn't long after that he died. Good boy.
Remember it?
I went back, and I started picking up because I loved it over there, and I had a couple of quid in my pocket, and I went back expecting it would be all the same. It would be chasing that holiday feeling and the Thailand tour feeling, and I went back and I picked up other substances that I hadn't used before, like yaba, meth, but it was a progression. I came home and I went back into that treatment centre, went back in for 30 days, and again my head's telling me I've got control. What I'll do is I'll go back to Thailand, stay out of treatment or not.
Go to Thailand
and I'll get a wee party, and then I'll come back and do all that recovery stuff and that 12-step programme you're talking about. And I went over for 2 weeks, and I was over there for 5 months. Broken. See the same stuff that happens here. Creeping out windows, hood up, going to get a bit of gear, hanging about with other addicts, because we just attract each other. No negative. When I'm being negative, I attract negative people. When I'm being positive, I attract positive people. Addicts just attract addicts. Do you know what I mean? And if you want to find something, you'll find them. And I found them. And if you're having the grandest hotels, to being stuck in the jungle, to this wee mad hotel with other addicts, smoking meth. Do you know what I mean? I was very lucky to get back. Very, very lucky. I was an overstayer. Took off the plane a couple of times, bribed for money. I genuinely thought I wasn't going to get back. Aye.
I'm so glad you did.
Cheers.
And then they get to, I'm gonna get you to send me a picture, mate, for your worst to now, that comparison picture you've put on a few times and use it as the thumbnail, because see, for me, I met you in White Inch, and that was probably the end of 2019, start of 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, Steve, I came back and I told my family that I didn't could see you again, mate. I thought you were going to die. You are in such a nick, mate. You must have weighed about 7 stone. Grey. Oh mate, I was so worried about you, and then you got back into the fellowship, and obviously this time, as it says in the episode, you've managed to get a year clean, man. So congratulations on your birthday. I would have the streamers in that, but if we could get them, but no, mate. So what have you done? What's your recovery been like this time that it's actually been successful and you've got your year clean?
What happened is lockdown was happening in Thailand, so I had to get home.
Yep.
And I get back, and I remember getting on that flight to Dubai. I had to get 2 flights, and I'm like, I'm never going to use again. Never ever. I'm going to get home, and I'm going to do that recovery stuff. I'm dying. And see that second flight from Dubai to Glasgow. I'm like, I'll just use once. 6 months later, I'm lying between my bed and my mirrors, and I could see my face. It was like a skeleton.
Oh, it was bad.
And it looked like I was going to die. I know loads of friends say to me this day, they were phoning me. Do you know why they were phoning me? Not to say hello. To see if I was alive. To make sure I was still alive, because I was dying and I could not stop using. And that cocaine took me to another level of insanity, where every time I opened my eyes, I did not want to be here, Ross. I wanted to die. I had a couple of suicide attempts because I just couldn't stop. I didn't like who I became. Back then, stuff I didn't want to do again for money, and maybe getting a day or two and then going back on it and see that the same as yourself, Ross. See, when you seen me, it was that, oh my God. Do you know what I mean? So every person I was meeting was shocked, and that was breaking my heart. Do you know what I mean? Breaking my heart. It wasn't until I get back into the fellowship, and it was on Zoom at the time.
Yep.
You know, and I put my camera on, and I said, "Going to help me, guys. Going to fucking help me." Dying. Do you know they guys got all around about us, and it was lockdown, so there wasn't much we could do because you need that connection with other people. Zoom's great for meetings when there's lockdown. It's a sore time for addicts because we isolate, we get caught in our own head, we end up using or we end up killing ourselves. So these guys came and picked me up and took me to cold water stuff, which helped me. Now I was back on a script. I was back on the methadone again, which I never thought would ever happen. And I jumped off 40 mils. If anybody's listening to this, don't jump off your methadone, but I jumped off 40 milligrams because I just couldn't stop using. And I picked up that program they're all talking about. And they picked us up. We went to do the cold water stuff, and that helped me massively. The biggest thing was the connection with the guys, but going in that water, freezing cold, January, something was happening. Do you know what I mean? And I prayed for help, and God I call it God. People put these guys in my path. And that cold water every day or every second day, just getting another day clean, These guys were paying for my Wi-Fi and my phone. They just wanted to see me getting better. Do you know what I mean? Constantly in contact on these meetings and Zoom, picking me up, cold water stuff, learning how to breathe properly. Now, and you were a big inspiration to me. I was watching you on social media doing it at night with a wee torch on and doing it. So you're one of the guys I was looking up to.
Talk to you a bit about that, Stevie, the cold water. I'm going to get back into it again. I've made a New Year's resolution for 2022. I'm going to try and get this podcast up and running. I'm going to get back into the house, and I'm going to get back to the cold water, because see, when you say it's only 15 minutes of your day sitting in that water, but what a difference it made to my mental health anyway.
Definitely. I'd recommend it to anybody. And it was watching guys like yourself doing it, going, well, there's going to be something in this, because loads and loads of people are doing it. People have got tubs outside, they're doing cold showers, and they're doing the one-half breathing and stuff like that. And I started doing all that stuff, and it started quieting that. You know, and it was about pushing myself. Do you know what I mean? Because my first thought is like, I'm not doing that. It's freezing, it's snowing. But you go in there, And it's not that good at the time, but see the benefits. I got to sleep, my head was quiet, I felt good, my appetite was better.
Yeah.
I could go on all day about benefits, and it's a cracking thing. I absolutely love it. And like yourself, I want to get back into it because it became summer.
And then the water's not as cold.
It's not really that cold, is it?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping to go New Year's Day. I'll give you a wee phone about that if you want to go New Year's Day to bring in the new year.
I'm gonna approach Jerry, who runs the Dynamic Creations 3801 Instagram page, and they focus a lot on the dynamic breathing and stuff like that as well, because it's a really good thing. But the likes of the wee groups that are sputting up all over Glasgow and the West that are doing these cold water challenges and 30-day challenges and stuff, anybody who's struggling with your mental health, it doesn't cost you any money. It costs you a wee bit of petrol money to drive to Duck Bay or Luss or wherever the guys are going in, the Campsie Fells, but the benefits far outweigh the cost of a wee bit of petrol. And it's something that I'm glad you spoke about it. I bum it up as much as I can because it's great. And it's also, as you say, if you can find a wee group, there's that connection where you're in there. I remember us being in at Duck Bay, breaking through the ice to get in, Stevie, and there was about 12 of us, remember, all in the circle, dancing around in the cold water. Remember that? Singing and amazing, mate, amazing. Another thing that you've done, that I've done as well, and another group that I'm going to get on the podcast is Big Jerry and Davey's Fire and Peace, mental health and addiction, outdoors, connecting with nature. I know you've been there, so how did you find that?
Do you know that probably came at the right time in my recovery? I think it was Aviemore it was. One of the boys I was in treatment with, he's an absolute cracking boy, Gary. He gave us a wee message. I see you're doing well in your recovery. You want to come to this fire and peace thing. Now I'm starting to get a drive again for recovery. I'm getting clean and I'm up for new challenges and pushing myself. So that was just ideal for me. Didn't have a clue what it was about. I says, so well, I'm just going to jump in it. So he hooked us up with the boys. We met up, camping gear, and no, I'd never been camping in my life. Been homeless, but I've never been camping.
Used a bridge at Central Station as a tent, but never a tent.
Yeah. So it was great. And I love their thought of recovery because it wasn't just addicts. No, it was people recovering from all sorts, trauma, mental health. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Ill health, whatever it is, addiction. We can get ragdolled in any of that stuff. So recovery's got a big, larger scale in recovery. So they covered all that stuff, and I heard their stories and that, and with the campfire, they fed us, they showed us how to cook underground, and with the big things we treated. No, it wasn't treated, but it was Africa Run, and with big canopy things, sleeping under the stars, with a river up in Aviemore. It was great. Absolutely loved it, and Jerry and that. We heard their stories as well because we all sat around saying 20, 30, I don't know how many there was, but we sat and we done wee shares and told our stories, and the let off balloons for a lassie that used to be there who passed away of this addiction. You know, it was quite emotional. Some people were upset.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I was on a trip with that lassie, and she was doing really well, and she went out the door a couple of weeks later and never came back.
That's what we're up against, isn't it?
That's exactly, mate. That's the danger we're up against. So, just if any listeners are in wondering what we're talking about with Fire and Peace, you'll get them on Instagram, you'll get them on Twitter, I'm sure. They've got a website, search them, Fire and Peace Glasgow. They're a charity, sorry. They've got their registered charity status now, where what they're trying to do is drive to connect with nature for people's mental health. So if you're struggling, Stevie says you don't have to be an addict. There's people there who've been through domestic abuse, who've lost a loved one, and it's kind of left them a wee bit mentally scarred. And it's just about going and getting people together in nature. Stevie says they'll teach you how to cook on a natural stove. They do this thing called a Swedish stove, Stevie. I don't know if you've seen that. They build and it's really good. It doesn't cost you a lot of money to go, and at the end of the day, you're going there, and as Stevie says, connecting with other people who have been through the same, and even if you go there and you find it's a bit too much for you, you can lie in your hammock, lie in your tent. You don't have to partake in any of the activities. And it was actually at that where I went in the cold water for the first time, Stevie. That was the first time I'd done it. There was a few boys there who were getting involved, and they took us into that stream, and it's a magical feeling around that. The buzz you get. As I say, hopefully I'm going to get Jerry or Davey on the pod to talk a wee bit about it, and obviously Jerry, who's the kind of the guy who started it. He's been on expeditions on the telly with no Bear Grylls, but the other one, I can't remember his name, but he's been down to Antarctica and that, and the -60 and stuff. So the guys really know what they're talking about, and they're really good. They've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt when it comes to bad mental health as well. So aye, mate, I'm glad that you found the same benefit for going to Fire and Peace that I did.
And there's people there that just want to see people getting better. They might not have addiction problems and childhood trauma and all that stuff, but they come there because they want to help people, and that's great, because people need all the help they can get. And see if you're helping somebody, it makes your life a lot better, or not.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. So you've obviously went from when you were younger, as you say, begging, borrowing, stealing to make a livelihood, and now you're clean. I see you on Instagram. You're quite the grafter these days. So you're working away, and I see the lovely bathrooms and stuff you're doing. So how you finding life a year down the line, clean and working a full-time job and doing the rest of your stuff?
Well, do you know what? I never see childhood. I was told I would amount to nothing. I would never hold doing a job. I would never achieve anything. So I took that into my addiction with me. Do you know what I mean? And getting clean this time, I had no money. Do you know what I mean? I wanted, a lot of people were helping me out, so I wanted to make my own money. I think about 60 odd days clean, somebody offered us a wee job, and I found out I could work. And then moving to another job, I thought, I'm quite strong and I'm quite reliable. And then I moved on to another job, and I'm like, I'm actually quite good with my hands. I'm always in time, I'm always responsible, I make my own money. And I and I find that I love working. Absolutely love it. I'm off right now, and I'm like, what do I do with my time? I love going up in these scaffolds and roofs. I love working hard. It takes me out myself. It's like a wee form of meditation for me. It keeps me busy, and I try and put as much back into life. Do you know what I mean? Try and be responsible. Do you know what I mean? Because all I've done was take. I'd rob your house, steal your motor. I would sell your own drugs. True, but see now, I wouldn't dream of that stuff. I want to be. I think that's been my biggest growth, has been employment, because you know what it's like in fellowships. It's all nicey nicey and you're doing good, but you go into real life, it's like, I don't care if you're a year after smart, get that done. You know what I mean?
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
It's been my biggest growth, and I try and put much into the stream of life as possible. Do you know what I mean? I try and live every day if it's my last. I fill my day up with hundreds of stuff. I'm always up for new challenges. I'm always trying to push myself, and see that stuff I've done in a year. Can't wait till next year. Do you know what I mean? I've got big ideas. I don't talk about stuff that I've not done. So I'm not going to talk about it, but I've got big ideas what I'm going to do this year. Do you know what I mean? If I can achieve all that in 1 year. But what's been great for me, being employed's been great. I get to meet new people, I get to go new places, and I've always got that couple of quid that I can pay my own way. I'm not taking now, I'm putting it back, and I try and help other addicts today. People find their way to recovery rooms, whatever it is, recovery cafes. You know, I'll go and get them a wee coffee now instead. No, I tried. A boy really did help me, right? He gave me all sort of, fed me and got me stuff and gave me clothes. And so see, when I started employment, that's really touched me. I was earning a couple of pounds, and I says, I need to give you some money back for everything you've done for us. And he says, no, you don't. He says, you just take that to the next guy. I went, wow.
Aye.
So I try and do that. Do you know what I mean? He didn't. He just wants. So somebody's passed that on to him, and I'll be
Yeah,
passing that on to somebody else, and hopefully they'll be passing that on to somebody else, and that's how it works. Amazing.
it's amazing, mate. Look, Stevie, I'm really, really, really glad that I managed to get you on. So I suppose just to finish up, if there's somebody listening into here that's maybe spending a wee bit more than they should be on the gambling, or maybe can't get themselves off the drugs, they don't realise that they're an addict, what would your advice be? Just to somebody
To
who's struggling?
reach out to somebody. There's always somebody that's been through what you've been through. You say that gambling, addiction, homelessness, trauma. There's always somebody, and it's always better to talk to somebody with lived experience, because they can tell you how they get better. There's all sorts of stuff on the websites. Don't be shy to phone their numbers or get in contact with people, because people genuinely want to help you today. It's amazing. So just reach out, get somebody's number.
Perfect, mate. I couldn't have ended it on a more fitting note, man. Stevie, thanks very much for coming on. Congratulations on your year, and I look forward to seeing what you get up to with your new projects that you've got coming, bro, right?
Right, brilliant. I'll get in touch with you about the cold water stuff, right?
Much love, mate, all right?
Right, see you later, bro.
Yeah, Stevie, bye-bye, mate, bye.